is it that? I'm not sure. And then when he growled at my daughter, Tony thinks it was more guarding for me because he's more my dog. He'll follow me everywhere. And when we adopted him, or before we adopted him, Tony was warning us that he had strong herding capabilities. And so my daughter and I were looking at her cell phone. She had something she wanted to show me, and we just moved it back and forth. And he may have thought that that was aggression on her part, So I'm not sure what it is. So I guess my way of dealing with that is, he was really like locked in on them. He was not breaking his attention from them. He was growling. So I basically held him by the collar and asked him to leave the room. Now, I guess Tony says that that's not a good thing because he thinks that he can get away with that. So I guess we need to know how to deal with that, so to speak.
How old is Mr. B?
He's 5 years old.
And how long has he been with you?
2 months.
Okay. Okay, so the growling was with the peanuts, and then he kind of looked a little weird with the whole switching of the phone.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Who's the primary feeder and walker?
Me.
Okay, and it's just you and your wife and that are the caregivers?
No. Well, we have 2 teenage kids also.
Okay. Are they involved in his care or play or walking?
No, just basically my wife and I. Mostly me, but my wife does some of it also.
Okay. How many times a day does he eat?
2 times. 1 in the morning and 1 around 6 at night.
Okay. You feed both of those meals?
My wife does the morning and I do the afternoon.
Okay. And how about your kids?
None.
Okay. Can they start getting involved in the feeding?
I would love it. Yeah.
This way, all 4 of you get onto like a rotation. There doesn't have to be a rhyme or reason as far as, the kids in the AM and the adults in the PM. It doesn't have to be like that. It could, just as long as you're all involved in the feeding.
Sure.
Okay. And what does he know? Basic obedience, like sit down, come.
He does.
Okay.
So yeah, he knows sit. He does that very well. And I do say come and go and wait.
Okay.
So I try to play with just those 4. They serve a lot of purposes, and he usually follows that very well, except when we have a cat involved. So we have 2 cats. One of them, she's around 16 years old, and she's a little senile. So she'll get on the ground and she'll stand her ground. And so he'll go up to her, and because she'll spit at him and whatnot, so he doesn't like that, obviously. So we have to be very careful. We have kid gates everywhere. And then we have another cat that's sort of slow and very cautious, and they seem to get along a lot better, actually. But still, when I say come here or come, if he has in mind that he wants to go see the cat, he won't listen to me at that time. So.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So sit, come, go. And how is his walking?
His walking is very good. When we were adopting him, we were told that he doesn't get along with other dogs too well, which is weird because Robert, the foster dad, had 3 other dogs. And I know that he played with the dogs in the backyard. I've seen videos of that. But on the walks, when we were introduced to him, on the walks, he would be agitated when other dogs would be nearby. And he's continued that on my walks. And so my idea is that, I've watched a couple of videos for dog training to see if I could pick up any ideas. Not sure if they're really helping me any, but when I see a dog in the distance, he gets very agitated. He wants to lunge at them. It doesn't matter how close they are. So I'll sort of redirect him by turning him around and walking another way. I have a treat bag with me. And so I try to, he loves food, so I can get his attention away that way. But when I can't go another way, if I have to go past the dog, I'll cross the street, but then he starts getting really, really determined to go after that dog. So I have a harness on him and I have his leash. So I tighten his leash, but I hold him by the harness, almost like a suitcase, so that I don't choke him to death, so to speak. But I do choke him a little bit so that he knows that he has to listen to me. And I do try to give him a treat to try to lead him that way. So he'll go after the treat, and I know he won't bite me, but it's just to get him into the direction I want to be in. So that's a work in progress. I'm not worried about that. I'm hoping that'll come with time. I'm going to continue working with him with that. I just don't want him to bite anybody, especially in the family. Outside, I can deal with him. He won't come in contact with those dogs. He won't harm them. So it's really in the house.
Okay. All right. And all right. So has he ever showed any guarding with toys or other food items inside the house?
Not really. No. When we give him food, though, he'll scoff it down. He can walk by the cat's dish. We forget to pick it up. We see him walk by. We remember. We pick it up. But yeah, no. Generally, he doesn't. And for his toys, he'll pick up a toy. He'll shake it a little bit and put it down. He's the type that he likes to bring a toy outside with him, and then he'll drop it and forget it. But that's his quirk. He'll pick something up, a ball or a stuffed animal, and when we go on his walks, he'll carry that like maybe a mile, and then before we know it, we always have to look to make sure we pick it up, type of thing. But, so he, I can take it out of his mouth again. With me, he won't do anything with me. I don't think my kids have tried to take it out of his mouth. I don't think they would want to, but I don't know what would happen, honestly.
Okay. Well, I mean, the main thing is that you haven't observed any
Not at all.
overt guarding with toys and stuff,
Yeah,
or
no,
food for that matter.
not
So
at all. No,
really, you have two incidences: peanut
That's all.
shells outside and the phone thing.
that's all it was. Yeah,
Okay. So, and the peanut shells where did this happen? In the yard?
we're in the backyard. My wife and I were just sitting outside, and so I try to do a routine. And at about midday, I'll take him outside. So she came to join us. We're having coffee, and we were shelling peanuts, and we just dropped them on the grass. And so he came and started eating them at our feet. And so she just bent down and picked a couple up, and I didn't move, so it wasn't like he was guarding me at that time. I really don't think so, which caught us off guard. And he really growled at her. And again, I told her, I held her by the collar, and I just told her to leave. And then at that point, he when he gets agitated like that, it takes him a little bit, like a couple minutes to come back, and he did.
Mm.
So.
All right. So it's I'm trying to think of giving you some. I'm obviously going to give you some homework, but
Okay.
The peanut shells was a one-off,
Yes.
right? And I'm guessing that he was in close enough proximity to actually aggress and target your wife if he
Right.
wanted to.
Yep.
And he didn't.
That's right.
And then the phone thing was more of a weird look, and you were really unsure of what was unfolding.
Well, it was more than a look. It was in both cases. He barked, and he gave a growl, and he was fixed. He wasn't. In both cases, his attention wasn't broken.
Right.
I would tell him to stop and sit, and he wouldn't listen to me.
Right.
In both cases, it was the same reaction that he gave us for two different reasons.
Right. Okay. So there's no pattern, which is the problem, right?
Okay.
You have two probably unrelated situations.
Mm-hmm.
And why the peanuts versus his own food or something inside the house is also unusual.
Yeah.
Maybe because it's different. That's the only thing. And I'm just guessing, like maybe it was just some kind of different resource.
Yeah.
And I mean, were they salted peanuts, or I don't know, maybe he's craving fiber, and the peanut shells have fiber. Who the hell knows, right? Yeah, I can come up with some really brilliant ideas, but I'd just be guessing. So I'm just going to be honest with you, right?
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I think let's call them one-offs right now.
Okay.
But we'll proceed with caution, right?
Sure.
Because a growling dog is a form of communication that the dog is uncomfortable with something that is happening, right?
Right, right.
It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to bite, but it's certainly a literal communication. I'm uncomfortable with this, right?
Yep.
So we have to take that for what it's worth. So there's a couple of things we could do. I'm kind of a root cause type of personality.
Okay.
So, and I'm not telling you to do this, but like what I would do, like if it was my dog or if I was with you, I would probably go outside, just me and the dog, crush up some peanut shells and throw them on the ground and see what happens. Right? I'm not telling you to do that. Right? But if it's something that you want to try, just you and him, if you're comfortable, again, enter at your own risk.
I can do anything with him, and I feel completely comfortable with him. He's
Yeah.
in both cases. I tell you, when he went after the cat, I did something that I probably wouldn't have done if I thought about it. I pulled him by the tail, and he didn't care.
Yeah.
With my wife and my daughter, again, I grabbed for the closest thing because I panicked, and it was his back, and then I went for his collar. He will not do. I'm convinced. I may be wrong, but I'm convinced that he wouldn't turn on me. Bring back to your peanut shells idea that we did go back out and he did sniff those shells, and of course it was a day old, but he didn't go after them. He didn't care.
Right. And
So
I
who
mean,
knows?
the reason why I bring it up, because I'm interested if the peanut shell guarding was isolated to reprimanding your wife,
Mm-hmm.
or could have been your children,
Yep.
whereas he won't reprimand you, right? Because that will give me an idea of how he views other people in the household.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm thinking that, right?
I see, I see.
And again, I mean, if you're not comfortable, don't do that.
Okay,
But
I know what you mean. Yep.
you know, again, that's just, and you know, I tend to go fast when I'm working dogs. So,
Yep.
you know, historically, I've put myself in positions that I probably wouldn't put other people in. But
Mhm.
based on the relationship you're telling me you have with him, it might be something in the back of your mind if you ever want to try something. Clearly, have him on leash or something so you have control of him. But so with you being the primary caregiver and probably his primary source of looking to someone for direction, we need to get your wife and your kids more involved in that aspect of his life so everybody can help him make decisions, right?
Okay, right.
Or make decisions that align with our expectations, because any dog left to their own devices, they're going to make decisions based on the environment they're in that suit them.
Okay, yep,
That decision-making process doesn't always align with what we want, right?
right.
Now, obviously, I'm going to give you some suggestions that are a little more finesse and vanilla for your wife and kids, right? For
Okay.
safety reasons. You know, like if I was there and I met him and I met all you guys and then we could work together, you know, I might be doing things a little differently. Virtually, I have to be a little more responsible with my suggestions, if you will.
Got
You know
it.
what I mean?
Sure, I understand.
But nevertheless, I would always start with the same thing, and that's obviously getting everybody involved. So the feeding we got out of the way. Everybody's got to walk him. Now, your challenge is his behavior on walks, right? So that's a challenge. So obviously you can accompany them, especially your kids. You don't want your kids to be walking him and he's dragging them all over the place.
Sure, sure.
But you can choose a time of day when you think it's going to be less likely you'll encounter another dog, or maybe a lower activity part of the day.
Or there could be, yeah, there's different routes where there's less chances we'd have any dog there.
Right.
So we could walk there with them.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't even have to start going on a mile walk. If you want, you could literally go outside and just walk back and forth a few houses from your house, going back and forth, and have them, you know, stop every 15 or 20 steps, make him sit, and give them a treat. They can do little working walks with him in a very short distance, not too far from the house for safety reasons. That gets him out of the house. It gets him working for them outside the house, right? And that's a good way, like especially with teenagers. I mean, if you can manufacture 5 minutes of their time, good for you.
That's the problem.
Yeah, right. So if we could say, hey, do you have 5 minutes? That might help us, because 5 minutes outside back and forth is better than no minutes.
I do ask them to take them out, because when I'm outside doing something around the house and I don't want them, say, out front of the house where the road is, I'll ask them to take them out. So they've taken him out a couple times, and he's very good with them. So if they take him on a leash and just bring him in the backyard, we have an enclosed area. He's good with that.
Okay.
So they only did it a couple times though. We'll make sure that we make them do it a little bit more also.
Right. And I mean, obviously you and your wife are going to be the primaries, and you know, you're more likely to follow through with this, but any additional care and provision of resources that your kids can get involved with would be helpful.
Okay.
Right? So, and obviously you're going to continue doing what you're doing. Your wife needs to kind of step up her game as far as she needs to start working him every day.
Okay.
And I recommend 3 training sessions every day. And that you don't have to write this down. You're going to get a copy of the video.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, just, yeah, 3 training sessions, and we're talking 1 or 2 minutes, right? I mean, because after 1 or 2 minutes, sit down, come stay. It gets kind of boring for the dog. It gets kind of boring for us.
Yeah, yeah.
The main thing is that we're sprinkling these little mini sessions throughout the day, right?
Okay.
To get the dog working for both of you all day long, right?
Okay.
And that's just to kind of give him a little mental stimulation, and again, to get him working for your wife more so than you, because obviously you have a different, he has a different perception of you than the other people in the house.
Yeah.
Okay. And you could use treats if you want. I recommend always using treats, and at least verbal and physical praise. And then if you want to have, or your wife wants to have a longer session with him, that's where I recommend play training, where we're actually using toys in place of food.
Okay.
Okay. So does he like fetch or tug or anything?
We've tried fetch. This is our second dog, and neither one fetch.
That's
I don't know
okay.
what I'm doing wrong.
Does he chase?
Small animals.
Okay. Will he chase a ball?
No, I throw the ball and he looks at me.
Okay, all right,
Go
that's
get
fine.
it, buddy.
Is he a hound?
He's supposedly part hound and border collie.
Okay, I'm surprised the border collie part won't run, but the hound makes sense.
Yeah,
Hounds look at us like, that's not an animal. That's not my job.
Yeah. So.
How about inside the house? Does he like? I know you said he picks up toys here and there.
Well, he picks up toys, and what really keeps his attention the most are those Nyla bones. We give him that. The only time we gave him a ball, we gave him little stuffed animals. He'll pick one up and he'll shake it a little bit. I tried to play tug of war with him with it a couple times. He gives up. Outside I try to tussle with him a little bit. My other dog used to like to do that, and Mr. B is just okay.
Okay. Well, all right. So he has a mild interest in toys. So maybe your wife can start inside with maybe a Nyla bone, have a couple of toys handy.
Yeah.
Even if it's just Mr. B, come, good boy, give him a toy. Maybe he'll take it in his mouth, shake it, and then drop it.
Yeah.
She steps back a little further away from him. Mr. B, come, good boy, sit, good boy. Then give him the next toy.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to be a little creative to kind of pique his interest a little bit.
Yeah.
So that this way, obviously he's working for food and verbal and physical affection, but he's also working for toys, even as minimal as it might be, just to change the pace of the little sessions up every day.
Okay.
So that's one thing. Obviously the working walks, he's food motivated, right?
Completely. Yep.
Beautiful. So, if you and your wife are going to take him for a walk, let your wife be the handler.
Yeah.
With the exception of safety measures where you might have to intervene from a safety standpoint,
Yeah.
you got to kind of let her work her thing, like do her thing.
She's done that a couple of times, and I have complete confidence in her, to tell you the truth. She's not a pushover, and
Good.
so
Okay.
if another dog came over, she might handle a little different than I would, but she won't have a problem.
Okay. Yeah. And then, outside when we're walking and there's a lot of distractions, if we have to increase the value of the food we're using, like you could probably get away with, the regular treat that you might bring with you. Whereas your wife or your kids, they might need hot dogs.
Okay.
Seriously, like literally hot dogs, right?
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Because I 100% beef, low sodium. There's nothing wrong with that. Cut them up into little tiny pieces, put them in a little Ziploc.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a ton of them. But if he's food motivated, generally we increase the food value. When there's distractions, we're more likely to get his attention when the primary handler is not in control.
Sure.
Okay. And then something I like to implement for all caregivers is resource control. Okay. And that's where you probably heard nothing in life is for free. Have you ever heard that?
Yep.
So if he doesn't do something, he doesn't get it, whatever it is.
Okay.
Okay. Food, treats, affection, playtime, furniture, opening up the back door, putting the leash on, whatever it is, he has to earn it, and that's where obedience comes into play.
Okay.
Even if it's just you go into the back door, sit, good boy, then open it.
Okay, so I have a question for you along those lines.
Sure.
So when I do walk him, and my way to get him past that dog that he's wanting to lunge at, I do pull out a, so I carry a treat bag with me, and I do pull out a treat and I dangle it out for him and I give it to him as we're walking away. Now, does he deserve that? Because honestly, he's still tugging and still trying to get past. But I kind of, you know, my intention is to get him motivated to look the other way and get his mind off the dog. It works sometimes, but I have to say it doesn't work all the time. So what could I do differently for that?
Yeah, so that's not something I would do,
Okay,
depending on the dog. Now, if he was a really passive dog and he was experiencing the opposite anxiety, maybe he was trying to get away from the dog,
right.
right? Then I might try to coax him and create a positive association. But Mr. B is escalating and
Yes.
targeting.
Yes, exactly.
So he is physically escalating his behavior and treats aren't working.
Okay, yeah,
So that means we have one other option at our disposal, right? We can either reward or correct the dog.
right.
There's no in between in that situation, right?
Okay, and how could I correct that?
So that's where like a leash pop, you know, might come in handy. Where what I mean by that is, you know,
I know
let's
what you
say,
mean.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, it would just be a little leash pop, right?
Yeah.
And the thing with leash pops, and it works on a harness too. He doesn't have to have a regular collar on.
Yeah.
What you can do is you can get like a, you know how they have the rabies tags and stuff.
Yep.
You can get like some kind of tag like that. Get a couple of tags, put them on his harness O-ring
Okay.
where the leash attaches to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when you give that leash pop, you're also getting the jingle.
I see.
So
Okay.
you also have an audible signal for him as well,
Ah.
right? Where he hears the correction,
No,
right?
I purposely don't tie the leash to the harness. I tie it to the collar. Again, I saw
Oh,
that on
okay.
a couple videos just that because it was that leash pop that they say, and they pull up, not on the side, but pull up. And I do get his attention that way, but then
Okay.
when he gets too aggressive and I hear him choking, I hold it up, but then I also hold on to the harness and I drag him both ways.
Okay. So here's the issue with that is when you do the leash correction, you can't pull and hold.
Ah, okay.
Okay. That's not the most effective way. Now it might work on some dogs. It's been my experience that quick pop is really what's going to work.
But if I don't, if I release it, then he goes towards the dog.
Well, no, this is how, you know what? Do I have a dog up here? Yes, I do. Okay, so my dog's going to be upset because they're going to correct her for no reason, but come here, Sable. Sable, come. So if I do this, right?
Yes.
Her response, you see her, how she is?
Yeah. Ah.
See how fast that was?
Yeah, yeah.
The first correction was sustained and hard and strong.
And that's what I was doing.
The second correction was fast, light, and quick.
Okay.
Now she's used to it, so she didn't get the reaction. When you really get that snap, the first time you do that, he's gonna be like, "What the?"
Okay.
As soon as he does that, that's when you lure him away with treats.
Ah.
Right? So we have the behavior, the snap. The snap is the bridge from the behavior to what we want the behavior to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so that's really what we want. I'm sorry, Mama.
I'm sorry too.
Let me get the other guy. He might do it a little better. He's a little more enthusiastic. And he's a brick shithouse. He runs into walls. Nothing hurts him.
Okay. Okay. Yep.
Right now, clearly, I've done this to them at some point in their lives, right?
Yeah.
Where my thing is if I ever had to disconnect them from a behavior, it would be that snap, and I would have them default to a sit.
Yep.
So no matter what's going on over there, I need him here because I gave him the snap and the sit.
Okay.
Right. Good boy. So that's kind of how we want that fast snap to be.
Okay. I'll definitely work on that.
Let me hold on one sec. Now they think they're going for a walk. Every time I get on one of these Zooms, I'm like, because my office is upstairs. So I'm like, come on, guys, we got to go to work because I know I'm going to use one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing, and the thing with corrections is sometimes when they're suggested to people or they're implemented with anger, frustration, and strength,
Hmm.
you know, that's where corrections get a bad rap, right?
Right, right.
Our objective is, you know, whether we use a correction or food, right? The correction or food has to be slightly greater than the behavior we're trying to modify.
Okay.
Right? So if you have a barking, lunging, growling dog and we hold the leash and collar, that's not doing anything.
Right.
We need to disconnect them.
Okay.
Okay. And it's going to take some practice. You'll get better at it.
Hmm.
And so does he wear a rabies tag?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So that might jingle enough
Yeah.
between, you know, between the clamp of the leash, the clasp of the
Yeah,
leash
yeah.
and clanking on the metal.
Yep.
Because I found that the noise is just as effective as the snap
Okay.
because it makes that little ding, right?
Yep,
And
yep.
remember, their hearing is so sensitive, and that when you correct them, chances are it's just a few inches from the ear.
Exactly, it is. Yeah.
So so try that now. Now this happens fast, right? You know,
Yep.
and ideally you want to do this before he starts acting overtly, right? This is where you see his ears pop up. He might stiffen.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
That's when you correct,
Okay.
right? As soon as his body language shifts, you correct.
Hmm.
If he's already overtly displaying, it's too late
Okay.
because
Uh,
now you're correcting a symptom of the problem, which is
yeah.
the root cause is his thinking.
Now, if I correct him and it's only temporary, do you snap again for a second time?
Um, yes, if you have to.
Okay.
Okay.
'Cause anytime more than that, it won't work, I don't think.
Um, yeah. Well, you don't want to fight with him either, right?
Right, right.
So maybe the first time you have the opportunity to do this,
Hmm.
your game plan is okay. Shit's gonna hit the fan. He's gonna act right. He's
Yeah.
gonna act out. But we're gonna have a plan. Our plan's gonna be all right. Again. If we correct body language, we're changing his thought process.
Hmm. Hmm.
If we're correcting overt behavior, right, the barking, lunging, growling, it's too late. We might have to just do whatever we have to do to get out of that.
Okay.
So the first time you correct that body language shift,
Okay.
you want to get this out of him. Like, what the hell, right?
Yeah.
And then offer that treat. Come, good boy. And then just go in the opposite direction before he can reset and target.
Okay.
Right? That's probably how I would go about it, right?
Okay.
And then the repetition of that, he'll get better at that. He'll start anticipating, you know, he'll hear the pop, he'll look to you, he knows he's getting a treat and going in another direction, right?
Yep. Yep.
The progression to that is the same thing, but instead of going to the other direction, we put him in a sit and get him focused on us, right? So let's say I'm looking at the computer screen you, right? You're the dog on the other side of the street, right? We pop, we look over here. Now Mr. B is looking at us. I can see them walking by, but I'm keeping that treat. I'm keeping his focus, right?
Yeah.
As soon as they pass us, then I'll give him the treat and then continue on our way.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the progression.
It's gonna be long because that I have a hard time with, but we'll do it.
Yeah, and again, the value of the food you're using is a big part of the equation.
Okay.
Right? Because it just might not be enough. Because remember, now we're adding a different type of correction. So we want to be fair about it too. We're going to add a correction. Why not increase the value of the food reward?
Sure. I'll try hot dogs, no problem.
Yep, he's more likely to A, respond, and B, more importantly, retain the information that we're teaching him.
Okay.
Okay. One thing, generally speaking, if possible, if he starts acting out, you never want to exit that situation when he's in peak stimulation.
Okay.
Because that could actually validate and perpetuate his behavior.
Okay.
Now, the problem with that is if you have a barking, lunging, growling dog and someone's walking by, you know, excuse me, do you mind stopping? Right?
Yeah.
You know, not everybody's open to that, but if at all possible, if you can keep him in that situation until you redirect him and then get him to a better state of mind and then exit the situation.
Okay. I have a feeling that by increasing the food value, we'll have a big impact. I agree with that.
Yeah, but again, the correction is a big part of the equation because he has to understand this is not acceptable.
Right.
Right. you know what? You don't like other dogs. That's fine. You need to focus on me, because that's really our goal.
Yes.
We don't want to make him something he's not. We want him, we want to make him more reliable to focusing on us.
Okay.
That's ultimately what we're trying to do, right?
Sounds good. Yeah.
If he doesn't like dogs, he doesn't like dogs. Yeah,
Yeah.
we could probably match him up with some dogs over the course of his life, but generally speaking, he's probably not going to like strange dogs. So that's fine, but you can't act like a fool. You got to watch dad.
Okay.
And that's that.
Sounds good.
And then, hold on, I got a checklist. Okay, so the dog targeting we got the obedience, getting everybody involved. Anything else?
No, I guess the main thing was talking it out with you, because I know obviously I'm making some mistakes because things aren't working. So it's really nice to be redirected myself by what you're telling me. So I think that's really good.
You're not making mistakes. You're trying things.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all, right? I mean, I'm doing this 25 years. Some dogs, I'm trying things. I don't know what's gonna work.
So that's outdoors. Now he does, if we see the cats and if we let him, he, again, like I mentioned, if we call him, he won't come, or he'll come after he's already done chasing the cats out of the way. Any suggestions on that?
Yeah, so with dog behavior, we got to look at things from their point of view. They will perpetuate behavior and actions that they deem successful.
Sure.
Right? So chasing the cat is probably fun. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say so.
Why does a dog sit?
Because he gets food.
Because there's a treat on the other end, on the other side of that behavior.
Yeah.
Right? Why do they chase? Because it's fun, right?
Yeah.
It is really that simple. So, I mean, if the cats are not at risk and he's just one of those dogs that chase but doesn't do anything, you're probably okay. But again, it's your home and your environment, so rules.
I think a couple times, I mean, I don't mind him just chasing them, honestly, but I'm not quite sure what would happen at the end. Because sometimes if the cat goes under the sofa, he will really try to bring his head under the sofa aggressively. With our older cat, who he cornered her a couple times. One time she hissed at him and just, swiped at him, and he started going after her. If I wasn't there, I'm afraid that we would have had a dead cat.
Right.
That's the end result that I don't want.
Okay, so there's an escalation then. So then we have to fix it. Okay, like if it was just a chase and it was the same thing every day, that's fine. That usually works itself out. But if he's escalating as the cat escalates, because I mean, especially, the cat's 16.
Yeah, I think it's more she's the problem than our dog is.
Right. Yeah, my second cat, well, my one cat passed away last year. The other cat just passed away recently, and he was a real dick. Like, pardon my language. He was such an ass. Like, but I used him to test dogs, because I figure if a dog will accept him, they'll probably be okay with a normal cat. So we can't always control the cat. So this is where Mr. B is going to be Mr. B, but when push comes to shove, Mr. B needs to listen to mom and dad. Right? So the little mini training sessions, implementing resource control, is going to help his reliability as far as his commands. But we also need to work on that specific scenario with the dog and cat.
Okay.
So you're going to have to leash him. Okay. You're going to have to set up and stage these encounters for the purpose of getting Mr. B to focus on obedience and you in those moments of peak stimulation. Okay. Okay. Because if he can run and chase the cat, he's not going to listen to you, right?
That's right.
It's like people whose dogs always escape, right? I always tell them, look, I hate to tell you this, but it's more fun outside than it is staying inside. That's why the dog's taking off, right? So we need to make us better than any other alternative. Okay. So disconnect the behavior, and you can assign a word to it, especially now we have the cat and the walking outside with other dogs. If you want to use leave it, and that's your verbal cue. So if we're given the correction, it's leave it followed by the correction, redirect with food, get him into obedience and praise, right? Yeah. So it would be like this. So we would say, leave it, pop. Leave it, pop. So it's almost simultaneous, but not quite. We want that leave it right before the pop. Okay. the repetition of that, we're no longer going to need the correction. He's going to hear leave it, and he's going to look up and be ready.
Okay.
Right? Now, is this going to happen right away? It might. Some dogs catch on very quickly, right? Some you might need more repetition, and then other dogs you'll see inconsistency with response to different handlers, right? Just like you're seeing now in other areas of care. So so you can use the leash in both settings and use the leave it, pop, sit, good boy. And it could literally happen that fast.
Okay.
Right?
I'm anxious to try it. That sounds good.
Yep. So, and then if you get any video of that, or if you want to take video of you working him, you can send me the video through Facebook, and I can take a look at it, and I can offer any kind of critique from what I see as well.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that might be a little difficult because I'll have to have somebody nearby, but we'll try it.
Yeah, or you could like prop your phone up on the counter or something.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing is if someone's going to video you and Mr. B walking, and they're walking behind you, you can hold the phone like this, because then you and Mr. B will be in frame. If they're going to take video of you from the side, or if you're doing video in your house of the cat thing, hold the phone this way.
Okay.
Because we'll get a bigger frame, and I'll be able to see the whole picture.
Okay.
You know, so even if it's a little further away, with holding the whole phone horizontally, I can still see enough of his body language and the episode unfold. So,
okay.
Does it sound good?
Sounds great.